Imagine a small village in Nigeria, where each dawn brought promises of a new beginning, and each sunset held secrets of the past day. In this picturesque setting, among the palm trees and green fields, lived Adanne, a sweet young woman with bright eyes and an easy smile, carrying the hope for a better future in her arms. But on that starry night, destiny decided to change the course of her life. Abu, her long-term friend, came running to her, eyes wide and heart racing. "Adanne, I need to tell you something very serious," said Abu, almost out of breath. Adanne, sensing the urgency in her friend's voice, held her trembling hands and pulled her inside her humble home. The clay walls and thatched roof seemed to close in as Abu revealed the queen's terrible plan. "She's coming after you, Adanne. She doesn't want you to have your baby. You need to flee now, before it's too late." Adanne's world collapsed. She looked around, trying to find something to hold on to, something to give her strength to face this harsh reality. But all she saw were memories of happy moments that now seemed so distant. "But where will I go, Abu? I'm alone. I'm scared." Adanne's voice was a whisper of despair. Abu, determined to save her friend, held her face firmly. "You are not alone. I'll help you. Take only what is necessary. We can't waste any time." As the two friends hurriedly gathered some belongings, the silence of the night was broken only by the sound of their labored breaths. Fear and adrenaline made Adanne's blood pulse in her ears. She gently touched her belly, feeling the slight movement of her baby. "I will protect you, my little one," she promised silently. They slipped out the back door, avoiding the curious eyes of the neighbors. They walked through the forest, where the shadows of the trees danced to the rhythm of the wind, creating a symphony of mystery and danger. Every crack of a branch, every whisper of the wind, seemed like a warning that they were being followed. After hours of walking, they arrived at a safe place, a cave hidden among the mountains. There, they could finally rest. Abu looked at Adanne, her eyes filled with tears and hope. "Here you will be safe for now. We need to think of a plan to ensure your safety and that of your child." Exhausted, Adanne lay down on the cold floor of the cave, still unable to believe the whirlwind her life had become. But a flame of determination ignited in her heart. She knew she had to be strong. Not just for herself, but for the little being growing inside her. "We will make it, Abu. We will make it," she whispered, as sleep finally embraced her. Adanne's journey was just beginning. Every step she took was a challenge, a fight for survival. But with Abu's help and the strength of the love she felt for her child, she was determined to face any obstacle. After all, even on the darkest nights, the stars always shine brighter. The soft light of dawn filtered through the entrance of the cave, bathing Adanne in a golden glow. But in her heart, the shadows still lingered. The weight of losing her parents, who had been her safe harbor, still crushed her. At 17, she found herself alone, without her mother's loving guidance and her father's firm protection. Each day was a battle against the sadness that threatened to drown her in a sea of despair. Abu, always by her side, became more than a friend. She was her anchor in turbulent times. Adanne, I know everything seems impossible now, but we have to keep going. Your parents wanted you to be happy, to have a life full of hope and love, Abu would say, trying to comfort her. But the words, sincere as they were, struggled to penetrate the veil of sadness that enveloped Adanne. Weeks turned into months, and Adanne, still pregnant, began to feel the first movements of the baby in her womb. It was as if that little being was saying, "Mommy, I'm here. You're not alone." This thought gave her renewed strength. She knew she had to be strong, not just for herself, but for the child to come. One night, as the fire crackled softly, warming the small cave, Abu brought unexpected news. "Adanne, I found a place for you to stay. It's safe and out of the Queen's reach. An old friend of my family, a kind man named Sunday, agreed to help you." Adanne, though hesitant, knew she had no other choice. "Let's go then. The sooner we are safe, the better." And so, once again, they prepared for the journey. The stars were their constant companions, guiding them through the darkness. Sunday was a sturdy man, with eyes reflecting the wisdom of many years. Upon seeing Adanne, his face softened with a warm smile. "Welcome, my daughter. Here you will be safe. You can stay as long as you need." Adanne felt relieved, a bit of hope blooming in her heart for the first time in a long time. As the days passed, Adanne began to feel more at ease. Sunday's kindness and Abu's constant presence were balms for her wounded soul. The small space that Sunday offered became a home, full of laughter and shared stories. Adanne began to help in Sunday's shop, feeling useful and, in a way, finding a new purpose. Adanne's belly grew, and with it, her bond with the baby. Each kick, each movement was a reminder that life continued, that there was something worth fighting for. One afternoon, while resting after a long day, she felt the first contraction. Fear and excitement mixed in her heart. "Abu, it's time. The baby is coming." With the help of Sunday and Abu, Adanne gave birth to a beautiful boy. As she held him in her arms, all the pains and fears disappeared. "Welcome to the world, my little Inatam," she whispered, tears of joy rolling down her face. The baby's small whimper was the sweetest music she had ever heard. Sunday, watching the scene, felt deep joy. "Adanne, you are stronger than you realize. This boy is a blessing, and we will be here to help you both grow and thrive." The days passed quickly, and Adanne, now a mother, felt stronger than ever. Every smile from Inatam, every laugh, was a reminder that love and hope always prevail, even in the darkest moments. She knew that many challenges still lay ahead, but with Abu, Sunday, and her beloved son by her side, she was ready to face anything. And so, Adanne's story, marked by tragedy, began to transform into a narrative of hope, courage, and unwavering love. Deep in her heart, she knew her parents were smiling, proud of her strength and determination. The king's palace was a place of splendor and mystery, with its vast halls and lush gardens. For Adanne, it represented a new beginning, a chance to rebuild her life. Encouraged by Abu, she decided to try her luck and seek a position as a servant. The selection was rigorous, with many young women competing for the few positions, but Adanne's determination shone through. She demonstrated skills, resilience, and above all, a genuine heart. Finally, the announcement was made. Adanne and Abu were among those chosen. They could hardly contain their joy. Embraced, they cried with happiness, feeling that this was the start of something promising. The work at the palace was arduous, but Adanne did not complain. She found a new family among the other servants. They supported each other, sharing daily laughter and challenges. With her tireless dedication, Adanne soon caught the queen's attention, who promoted her to her personal maid. This caused a stir among the other servants, but Adanne remained humble and grateful. Her new position was demanding, but she felt honored to serve the queen directly. The trust and respect the queen showed her were sources of pride and motivation. However, not everyone shared in this joy. Agodi, a senior servant, watched Adanne with envious eyes. She couldn't understand why a newly arrived young woman had received so much prestige. Fueled by jealousy, Agodi devised a plan to bring Adanne down. In a moment of carelessness, she planted the queen's precious jewels among Adanne's belongings, hoping to incriminate her. The discovery of the jewels caused an uproar in the palace. Adanne was shocked and helpless, unable to understand how this had happened. But Abu, always vigilant, had witnessed Agodi's treacherous act. Without wasting time, she ran to the queen and revealed the whole truth. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the queen called an immediate meeting. Agodi was confronted with the evidence and, with no way out, confessed. She was immediately dismissed and expelled from the palace. Adanne, relieved and grateful, embraced Abu. "Thank you for believing in me and defending me," she whispered, feeling the weight of the injustice lift from her shoulders. Life in the palace returned to normal, but now with an even stronger bond between Adanne and the queen. Impressed by Adanne's loyalty, the queen treated her almost like a daughter, entrusting her with even more important tasks. Adanne felt more secure and confident, ready to face any challenge that came her way. However, fate had more surprises in store. One night, while delivering tea to the king's quarters, he pulled her close and, with a sinister smile, forced her into a terrible secret. Adanne was devastated, feeling betrayed and powerless. The weight of the secret was overwhelming, and she didn't know who to turn to. Abu, noticing the change in her friend, insisted that Adanne tell her what was happening. Unable to keep the secret any longer, Adanne broke down in tears and told her everything. Abu, horrified and furious, promised to help Adanne find a way out. When the queen returned from a trip, she also noticed the deep sadness in Adanne. She insisted that Adanne share her troubles. Adanne, lacking the courage to reveal the abuse, only mentioned missing her deceased parents. The queen, touched, tried to comfort her, but Adanne knew that true healing lay beyond gifts and kind words. Time passed, and Adanne's belly began to grow again. Abu, ever vigilant, noticed and confronted her friend. Adanne, through tears, revealed that she was pregnant with the king's child. The revelation was a shock, and both knew the danger was imminent. When the queen discovered the truth, she tried to force Adanne to abort, but failed. Determined to eliminate Adanne once and for all, she plotted a new scheme. Hearing of the sinister plan, Abu knew they had to act quickly. On a dark and silent night, the two friends fled the palace, taking only the essentials. They walked for hours, finding refuge in a distant village. There, Adanne gave birth to a beautiful boy, whom she named Initam, in honor of the strength and resilience she had found within herself. In the new village, Adanne, Abu, and Initam began a new life, surrounded by kind people who welcomed them. Adanne found strength in her love for her son and in the unwavering friendship of Abu. Together, they proved that, even in the face of the greatest adversities, courage and hope always prevail. Adanne's promotion to the queen's personal maid brought her a mix of emotions. On one hand, she was thrilled and grateful for the queen's trust and respect. On the other, she felt the weight of responsibility growing each day. However, her dedication and work ethic were unquestionable. She served the queen with all her heart, ensuring every detail was perfect. But as Adanne excelled, Agodi, a senior and bitter servant, watched everything with envious eyes. To Agodi, Adanne's rise was a blow to her pride. She couldn't accept that a newly arrived young woman had gained so much prestige. Determined to bring Adanne down, Agodi began to plan in secret. One afternoon, while Adanne was busy with her tasks, Agodi saw her opportunity. With skill and deceit, she planted the queen's precious jewels among Adanne's belongings. Then, with a malicious smile, she alerted the guards about the supposed theft. Adanne was called to explain herself before the queen and the other servants, feeling incredibly confused and betrayed. When the jewels were found among her belongings, she was shocked and helpless. The queen's eyes narrowed, and the entire room seemed suffocated by heavy silence. Before Adanne could defend herself, Abu, who had witnessed Agodi's entire scheme, intervened. "Queen, I can prove Adanne's innocence," she said, her voice firm. She described exactly what she had seen, exposing Agodi's evil plot. The queen, realizing the gravity of the situation and Abu's loyalty, ordered Agodi to be brought to answer the accusations. Confronted with the truth, Agodi had no choice but to confess. The queen, disappointed and furious, immediately dismissed Agodi, banishing her from the palace. With tears in her eyes, Adanne thanked Obu. "You saved my life. I can never thank you enough." Obu just smiled and hugged Adanne. "We are sisters, Adanne. I will always be here for you." The incident, though traumatic, further strengthened the bond between Adanne and the queen. The queen, admiring Adanne's courage and integrity, began to treat her almost like a daughter, entrusting her with even more important tasks and personal confidences. Adanne felt more secure and valued, but the shadow of Agodi's envy and betrayal still lingered in her mind. Over time, Adanne fully adapted to the rhythm and demands of the palace. She and Obu, along with the other servants, formed an improvised family, where everyone cared for each other. Life was finally returning to normal, or so it seemed. But tranquility was disrupted again when one night, while delivering tea to the king's quarters, Adanne was pulled into a dark corner. The king, with a predatory smile, forced her into a terrible secret. Adanne, paralyzed by fear and shame, was forced to swear she would never reveal what had happened. That night, the weight of the secret stole her sleep and peace. Days turned into weeks, and Adanne, pregnant again, felt her energy and joy disappear. Obu, noticing the change in her friend, insisted that Adanne tell her what was happening. Finally, unable to keep the secret any longer, Adanne revealed everything. Obu, horrified and heartbroken for her friend, promised to find a solution. Meanwhile, the queen, noticing Adanne's sadness, tried to find out what was wrong. Adanne, fearing the repercussions, only mentioned that she was sad about the loss of her parents. The queen, moved, gave her gifts and tried to console her, but Adanne knew that no gift could alleviate the burden she carried. With the pregnancy advancing, Adanne knew she couldn't hide the truth forever. When the queen finally found out, her reaction was one of anger and despair. She tried to force Adanne to abort, but when that failed, she planned to eliminate Adanne for good. Obu, hearing the plan, knew they had to act quickly. On a moonless night, the two friends fled the palace, taking only the essentials. They walked for hours, finding refuge in a distant village. There, Adanne gave birth to a beautiful boy, whom she named Inetam, a symbol of her resilience and hope. In the new village, Adanne and Obu rebuilt their lives. The kindness of the villagers and Obu's constant presence were balms for Adanne's wounds. Inetam grew strong and healthy, filling his mother's heart with pride and joy. Each day was a new opportunity for a fresh start, and Adanne knew that despite the adversities, love and friendship would always find a way. Adanne's story, marked by betrayals and challenges, transformed into a saga of hope, courage, and unwavering love. She knew that with Obu by her side and her son in her arms, she could face anything destiny brought. And so, she continued, day by day, building a new life, surrounded by love and the promise of a better future. The expulsion of Agodi brought a sigh of relief to Adanne and the other palace servants. The shadow of betrayal had been dispelled, and peace finally seemed to reign again. Grateful for Obu's intervention, Adanne felt closer to her friend than ever. Life in the palace, though demanding, was now a place where she could breathe more easily and focus on her tasks with a calmer mind. With the queen's renewed trust, Adanne dedicated herself to her work with even more fervor. She knew that her position of trust was a privilege and strove to be the best servant possible. The queen, impressed with her dedication and integrity, began to entrust her with even greater responsibilities, including organizing royal events and managing important daily tasks. However, the challenges were not over. One night, while in the king's quarters to deliver tea, Adanne was caught off guard by the king himself. He pulled her into a dark corner and, with a sinister smile, forced her to keep a terrible secret. Fear and helplessness consumed Adanne, and she found herself trapped in a nightmare from which she could not escape. The days passed, and the joy that Adanne used to exude vanished. She became a shadow of her former self, her eyes always downcast, and her smile absent. Obu, concerned, insisted that Adanne share what was troubling her. Unable to keep the secret any longer, Adanne tearfully told her everything about the abuse she had suffered from the king. Horrified and filled with anger, Obu promised to help her friend out of that situation. They knew they needed a plan to protect Adanne and her future. When Adanne's pregnancy became evident, the queen also noticed the change. Although Adanne tried to hide the truth, the queen insisted on knowing what was happening. Overwhelmed with despair, Adanne revealed that she was pregnant. The queen, initially shocked and furious, felt compassion for Adanne upon understanding the gravity of the situation. She knew that Adanne's life was in danger and that the king would never allow the truth to come out. Determined to protect Adanne, the queen devised a plan to get her out of the palace safely. On a dark and silent night, the queen provided Adanne and Obu with everything they needed to escape: clothes, food, and enough money to start a new life far away. With a heavy heart but determined to save Adanne, the queen bid farewell to the two friends, wishing them luck and safety. Adanne and Obu, under the cover of night, set out on an uncertain but hopeful journey. They walked for hours, guided only by the light of the stars and the strength of their friendship. Finally, they found a small village where no one knew them. There, Adanne could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Away from the palace and painful memories, she began to build a new life for herself and her baby. The villagers were kind and welcoming, offering help and shelter. With Obu's assistance, Adanne found simple work that allowed her to support herself and care for her unborn child. When the time finally came, Obu was by her side, holding her hand and offering comforting words. The baby was born healthy and strong, a beautiful boy whom Adanne named Adanne. Looking at her son in her arms, Adanne felt a wave of love and hope. "We will build a new life, my little one. We will be happy," she promised, with tears of joy in her eyes. Time passed, and Adanne found happiness in the small things: her son's smile, Abu's unwavering friendship, and the kindness of the people around her. Each day was a victory, a step towards a brighter future. And although the past still cast shadows, Adanne knew that with love and determination, she could face any challenge. In the village, Adanne and Abu became vital parts of the community, helping others as they could and giving back the kindness they had received. The simple yet meaningful life brought peace to their hearts. Adanne grew up surrounded by love, his presence a constant reminder that life, despite its difficulties, can be beautiful and full of hope. And so, Adanne's story transformed from a saga of pain and betrayal into a narrative of overcoming, resilience, and love. With Abu by her side and her son in her arms, Adanne found the strength to start anew and live a life full of promises and new beginnings. Adanne's pregnancy, the result of a devastating secret imposed by the king, cast a cloud of sadness and fear over her life. The young woman, once full of life and joy, was now consumed by despair and anguish. Abu, always attentive, noticed the changes in her friend, but Adanne, overwhelmed by fear, couldn't reveal the truth. The queen also noticed the sadness in Adanne's eyes and tried several times to find out what was happening. "Adanne, you know you can trust me. Whatever it is, I'm here to help you," the queen said on one of these occasions. But Adanne, too scared to speak, would only shake her head and make excuses. As time passed, the secret became impossible to hide. Adanne's belly began to grow, and whispers around the palace increased. The queen, realizing the situation, confronted Adanne's family. "You are pregnant, Adanne. I need to know who the father is and what happened." The queen's words were both harsh and filled with concern. Finally, unable to bear the burden alone, Adanne broke down in tears and told the whole truth. She spoke of the king's abuse and the fear she felt every day. The queen, shocked and disgusted by her husband's actions, embraced Adanne. "We will find a solution. I promise." With the queen's help, a plan was devised to protect Adanne and her child. They knew the king would never accept the truth and that Adanne's and the baby's lives were at risk. Abu, always loyal, stood by her friend, ready to do whatever it took to ensure their safety. On a moonless night, while the palace slept, the queen arranged a carriage and provided Adanne and Abu with everything they needed to escape: clothes, food, and money. With tears in her eyes, the queen bid farewell to the two friends, wishing them safety and hope. "Be strong. You deserve a happy life far from here," she said as the carriage departed into the unknown. The journey was long and tiring, but Adanne and Abu were determined to start a new life. They found refuge in a distant village where no one knew them, and they could begin again. The villagers were kind and welcoming, offering them work and a safe place to stay. Months passed, and finally, the day of the baby's birth arrived. Abu was by Adanne's side, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement. After hours of labor, Adanne gave birth to a beautiful boy, whom she named Inetam, symbolizing the hope and new life they were building. Inetam brought renewed joy to Adanne's life. Each smile from the baby was a reminder that despite the adversities, love and hope prevail. Adanne and Abu worked tirelessly to ensure that Inetam had a happy and secure life. They became vital members of the community, helping others and giving back the kindness they had received. However, even in the safety of their new home, Adanne couldn't forget the past. The fear and pain were still present, but she found strength in her son and the unwavering friendship of Abu. Together, they faced each challenge, proving that resilience and love are stronger than any adversity. One day, while Adanne was at the market selling fruit, she met a man named Sunday, who owned a small provisions shop. He was kind and always ready to help. Over time, Adanne and Sunday developed a deep friendship, which slowly blossomed into something more. Sunday became a father figure to Inetam, offering him love and guidance. With Sunday by her side, Adanne began to believe in love and happiness again. Life in the village was simple but full of joy. Inetam grew strong and healthy, surrounded by a family that loved him deeply. Years passed, and Adanne, Abu, and Sunday became a family. Together, they created an environment of love, safety, and hope for Inetam. And although the scars of the past never completely disappeared, they served as a reminder of how far they had come. Adanne's story, marked by pain and betrayal, transformed into a narrative of overcoming, resilience, and unconditional love. She knew that with Abu, Sunday, and her son by her side, she could face any challenge that destiny brought. And so, day by day, they built a new life full of promises and new beginnings, proving that even in the darkest circumstances, the light of love and hope always finds a way. When Adanne and Abu arrived at the distant village, they were exhausted but determined to start a new life. The kindness of the villagers was a balm for their tired souls. One of the villagers, a man named Sunday, quickly stood out. He owned a small provisions shop and always had a warm smile to offer. Sunday, noticing Adanne's vulnerable state, offered shelter and help without hesitation. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said, with a kindness that brought tears to Adanne's eyes. She accepted, feeling a deep gratitude and a glimmer of hope blooming in her heart once more. Months passed, and Adanne, now safe and welcomed, began to adjust to her new life. She helped Sunday in the shop, learning about the trade and earning the trust of the villagers. Abu remained by her side, helping in any way she could and ensuring that Adanne had the support she needed. Finally, the day of Inetam's birth arrived. Sunday and Abu were by Adanne's side, holding her hands and offering words of encouragement. After a long and difficult labor, Adanne gave birth to a beautiful, healthy boy. As she held her son in her arms, Adanne felt a wave of love and relief. "Welcome to the world, my little Inetam," she whispered, with tears of joy rolling down her face. Sunday, who had become a father figure to Adanne, offered all the support he could. He helped take care of Inetam, providing a loving and stable male presence. The new family formed naturally, united by love and the desire to protect and care for Inetam. As the years passed, Adanne, Abu, and Sunday built a happy and peaceful life. Sunday taught Inetam about the shop and life in the village, while Adanne and Abu cared for him with all the affection in the world. The pain of the past began to dissipate, replaced by moments of genuine joy and happiness. Inetam grew strong and healthy, surrounded by love and support. He excelled in school and was loved by everyone in the village. Adanne, seeing her son thrive, felt an indescribable joy. She knew that everything she had faced was worth it to ensure that Inetam had a life full of opportunities and love. The friendship between Adanne and Abu only grew stronger over time. They were more than friends, they were soul sisters, united by unbreakable bonds. Abu, always loyal, continued to support Adanne every step of the way, while Sunday became a pillar of strength and love in their lives. Over time, the relationship between Adanne and Sunday evolved into something deeper. They fell in love, finding comfort and happiness in each other. They decided to formalize their union, bringing even more stability and joy to the family. The village became a welcoming and safe home where Adanne could finally breathe in peace. She knew that the scars of the past would never completely disappear, but they became a reminder of her strength and resilience. With Sunday and Abu by her side, and with Inetam growing healthy and happy, Adanne found the life she had always dreamed of. Adanne's story, marked by challenges and adversities, transformed into a narrative of overcoming, love, and hope. She proved that even in the most difficult situations, determination and love can create a bright future. And so, day by day, Adanne, Sunday, and Inetam built a life full of promises and new beginnings, demonstrating that with love and courage, any obstacle can be overcome. The years passed with a quiet happiness in the village, where Adanne, Sunday, Abu, and little Inetam built a life full of love and laughter. However, life has a cruel way of testing even the strongest. On a fateful day, while Adanne was returning from the market, a tragic accident occurred. She was hit by a car, and despite the efforts of the villagers and Sunday, Adanne did not survive. The entire village was engulfed in grief. Adanne was loved by everyone, and her death left a profound void. Sunday, devastated by the loss, found strength in the promise he had made to Adanne to take care of Inetam. He dedicated himself even more to the boy, trying to fill the void left by his mother. Abu, always present, also helped sustain the new family dynamic. Inetam, now 8 years old, deeply felt the absence of his mother. Sunday and Abu surrounded him with love, but as he grew, questions began to arise. He knew that Sunday was not his biological father, but he never dared to ask about it, fearing the answers. When Inetam turned 12, Sunday felt it was time to tell the truth. On a quiet night, he called Inetam to sit beside him on the porch. The stars shone brightly in the sky, and the atmosphere was charged with emotions. Inetam, there is something very important I need to tell you about your mother and your father, Sunday began, his voice trembling. Your mother, Adanne, was an incredible and courageous woman. She loved you more than anything in this world. But there is something about your biological father that you need to know. Inetam looked at Sunday with wide, curious eyes, full of apprehension. Sunday took a deep breath and continued. Your biological father is the king. He did something very wrong to your mother, and she had to flee the palace to protect you. Adanne never wanted you to suffer because of it, and she raised you with all the love she had. The words hung heavy in the air, and Inetam was silent for a few moments, processing everything he had just heard. So, I am the son of a king, he asked, his voice trembling. Yes, you are, Sunday replied, holding Inetam's hand. But to me, you will always be my son. I love you and will always be here for you, no matter what. Inetam, with tears in his eyes, hugged Sunday tightly. I love you, Dad. Thank you for always being by my side. Over time, the truth about his biological father became an accepted part of Inetam's identity. He understood the magnitude of his mother's sacrifice and the courage she had to protect him. Sunday continued to be a central and loving figure in Inetam's life, guiding him with wisdom and affection. When Inetam turned 18, he decided he wanted to learn more about his origins. With Sunday's blessing and Abu's support, he prepared to visit the palace. He wanted to understand more about his past but also show the king that, despite everything, he had become a strong and resilient young man. Inetam's arrival at the palace was a significant event. The king, now older, was shocked to see the son he had tried to forget. Inetam, with a firm stance and determined look, introduced himself to his biological father. I am Inetam, son of Adanne. I came here to learn more about my roots, but also to let you know that despite everything, I found a true family full of love. My mother protected me, and my father Sunday raised me with all the love he had. I came here to close a chapter and move forward. The king, overwhelmed by a mix of regret and shame, could not hold back his tears. He knew he had made terrible mistakes, but he also saw in Inetam's presence a chance for redemption in some way. Although the path to forgiveness was long, that encounter was an important step towards healing for everyone involved. Inetam returned to the village, where he was welcomed with joy and relief by Sunday and Obu. He knew that his true home would always be there, among the people who loved him unconditionally. Life continued, full of challenges and triumphs, but with the certainty that despite the difficulties, love and resilience always prevail. Inetam's story, marked by loss and revelations, became a testament to the strength of love and the importance of family, not just the family of blood, but also the one built by the bonds of the heart. And so, he moved forward, with the memory of his mother as a beacon and the love of Sunday and Obu as a solid foundation to face the future. After years of a simple but happy life in the village, Inetam felt he needed to confront his past and seek recognition. With the support of Sunday and Obu, he decided to return to the palace to meet the king and possibly be acknowledged as his legitimate son. Sunday, although reluctant, knew this journey was important for the young man and decided to accompany him. Upon arriving at the palace, they were met with curious and suspicious looks. The news of Inetam's arrival quickly spread, reaching the king's ears. The monarch, now older and perhaps wiser, ordered that Inetam be brought to his presence. Seeing the young man who so closely resembled Adanne, the king was shocked and visibly moved. "Inetam, my son," said the king with a trembling voice. "I have heard of your mother's sacrifice and the love with which Sunday raised you. It is time for you to be recognized as part of this family." The king's decision to acknowledge Inetam as his legitimate son brought a new dynamic to the palace. While some welcomed the news with joy, others, like Prince Udoka and the queen, were not so pleased. Udoka, the king's legitimate son, felt his position and rights were threatened. The queen, who had always supported her son, also saw Inetam as an intruder who could destroy everything they had fought for. Conflicts began to arise. Udoka, driven by jealousy and insecurity, started provoking Inetam, questioning his legitimacy and making spiteful remarks. The queen, in turn, conspired in secret, trying to find a way to destabilize Inetam's position. Sunday, sensing the tension, advised Inetam to remain calm and dignified. "Remember, Inetam, your mother always wanted you to be strong and just. Don't let their anger corrupt you. Show them who you really are." Inetam, determined to honor his mother's memory and Sunday's love, strove to conduct himself with grace and courage. He dedicated himself to learning about the palace's responsibilities and serving his people. Gradually, he earned the respect of many, including some who initially doubted his legitimacy. The tension reached its peak when Udoka, in a fit of rage, challenged Inetam to a duel. "Let's see who the true heir is," he said, his eyes burning with hatred. Inetam, though reluctant, knew he needed to face Udoka to end the doubts and prove his worth. On the day of the duel, all eyes were on the two young men. Sunday and Obu watched with heavy hearts, fearing for Inetam's safety. The battle was intense and thrilling, with both demonstrating skill and determination. In the end, Initam, guided by the memory of his mother and the strength of the love he received from Sunday, managed to defeat Udoka without seriously injuring him. "I did not come here to take anything from you, Udoka. I just want to honor my mother and find my place," Initam said, helping Udoka to his feet. These words, full of sincerity and compassion, touched many of those present, including Udoka himself. From that day on, the relationship between the brothers began to change. Udoka, though initially reluctant, started to respect Initam and understand that his struggle was not against him but against the injustices of the past. The queen, seeing the change in her son, began to reconsider her own actions. The king, proud of Initam, officially acknowledged his position in the palace, ensuring that he was recognized as a legitimate prince. Initam, with the support of Sunday and a renewed friendship with Udoka, worked to bring peace and prosperity to the kingdom. Initam's story became a legend, an example of courage, resilience, and the strength of familiar love. Sunday, always by Initam's side, proudly watched the young man he had helped raise become a just and compassionate leader. And so, with the memory of Adanne as their guide, Initam, Sunday, Udoka, and the queen began to build a new chapter in the kingdom's history, a chapter marked by unity, forgiveness, and hope. Together, they proved that regardless of adversities and conflicts, love and justice always find a way. Initam's acceptance into the palace brought new dynamics but also increased tension among the royal family members. The queen, still resentful and fearful of losing control over the throne, began secretly plotting to eliminate Initam. She saw him as a constant threat to her son Udoka's position, and her envy and anger grew each day. Over time, the queen devised a sinister plan to get rid of Initam once and for all. She would poison his food, hoping his death would appear to be a tragic accident. However, in a tragic twist of fate, the poison ended up in the food of the king and Udoka. On that fateful day, as everyone gathered for a meal, the king and Udoka fell gravely ill after consuming the poisoned food. Panic swept through the palace. Doctors were called, but it was too late. The king and Udoka succumbed to the poison, leaving a huge void and a wave of sorrow. The queen, realizing the terrible mistake she had made, was consumed by guilt and despair. She tried to hide her involvement, but the evidence eventually came to light. Initam, devastated by the loss of his biological father and the brother with whom he had begun to form a relationship, was left to deal with the aftermath. The revelation of the queen's plot shocked everyone. The royal council, outraged by such betrayal, decided that the only fitting punishment was the queen's banishment. The queen was led out of the palace, expelled from the kingdom she had tried to manipulate and control. Her face was marked by pain and regret as she was escorted away, leaving behind the legacy of destruction she had caused. With the death of the king and Udoka, the weight of the crown fell upon Initam's shoulders. He was proclaimed king, a position he had never desired but that now belonged to him. The coronation was a solemn event, mixed with sadness for the recent losses, but also with a thread of hope for a better future. Inetam, with Sunday and Obu by his side, accepted his new role with humility and determination. He knew he had the responsibility to unite the kingdom and lead with justice and compassion, honoring the memory of his loved ones. His reign began with a series of reforms aimed at improving the lives of the people and ensuring that the tragedy he faced would never be repeated. Sunday's presence in the palace brought comfort and wisdom. He continued to be a father figure to Inetam, advising him and offering unconditional support. Abu, always loyal, helped manage the kingdom's affairs, ensuring that Inetam's vision for a more just future was realized. Under Inetam's leadership, the kingdom began to flourish. He promoted education, reformed the justice system, and encouraged equality among all citizens. His compassion and integrity earned the respect and admiration of many. The people, who once looked at the royalty with distrust, now saw in Inetam a leader truly dedicated to everyone's well-being. The memory of Adanne remained a guiding force for Inetam. He ruled with the same courage and determination that his mother had shown in protecting him. Every decision he made was a tribute to the sacrifice and love she had given him. As time passed, the wounds of the past began to heal. Inetam married, forming his own family and ensuring the continuity of a legacy of justice and love. Under his reign, the kingdom prospered, becoming an example of peace and progress. Inetam's story, from his humble beginnings to becoming a wise and compassionate king, became a legend. He proved that, regardless of circumstances and challenges, the strength of love and justice always prevails. And so, with the support of his family and friends, he continued to build a kingdom where all could live in harmony and hope, leaving a lasting legacy for future generations. Under Inetam's reign, the kingdom flourished. His wisdom and compassion brought an era of peace and prosperity. He implemented significant reforms, promoting justice, equality, and opportunities for all. The people, who once looked at royalty with distrust, now saw in Inetam a leader truly dedicated to everyone's well-being. Sunday, always present by Inetam's side, continued to be a source of wise counsel and unconditional support. Abu, who had been a loyal and courageous friend, became a trusted advisor in the palace, helping to manage the kingdom's affairs with the same dedication and care she had always shown. Over time, Inetam's life gained a new radiance. He fell in love with Abu's daughter, a young woman as strong and determined as her mother. She was intelligent, kind, and shared the same values of justice and compassion as Inetam. Their relationship grew naturally, based on mutual respect and genuine love. The marriage of Inetam and Abu's daughter was a grand and joyous event, further uniting the kingdom. The celebrations lasted for days, and the people rejoiced with dancing, music, and festivities. Their union symbolized the importance of bonds that go beyond blood, highlighting that a true family is formed by love and unconditional support. Together, Initam and his wife formed a happy family, raising children in an environment of love, respect, and solid values. They taught the next generations the importance of kindness, justice, and courage. Abu's daughter, now queen, fulfilled her role with grace and wisdom, helping to govern and inspire all around her. The story of Initam and his family became a legend in the kingdom. They demonstrated that despite adversities and challenges, love and unconditional support are the most powerful forces. Sunday, as a beloved grandfather, told stories of courage and resilience to his grandchildren, imparting the life lessons he had learned over the years. Under the leadership of Initam and his queen, the kingdom continued to prosper. They promoted education, health, and well-being for all citizens, ensuring that every person had the opportunity to reach their full potential. Initam's reforms created a more just and equitable society, where each individual was valued and respected. Initam, always guided by the memory of his mother, ruled with a heart full of love and determination. He knew that the true strength of a kingdom lay in unity and mutual support. His family, formed by bonds of love and not just blood, was a shining example of the power of unconditional love. As the years passed, Initam looked back on his life with gratitude. He had overcome unimaginable challenges and built a legacy of justice and compassion. His story, marked by pain and triumph, became an inspiration to all. And so, the kingdom continued to flourish, guided by the principles of love, support, and determination that Initam had established. The story of Initam, Sunday, Abu, and their family is an eternal testament that, regardless of circumstances, love and support can overcome any obstacle. They showed the world that a true family is one built on love and respect, and that together, we can create a future full of hope and infinite possibilities.